Hey everyone, Matt here, and this is the Vinyl Head UK channel. How's everybody doing? Let's have a look at another record. I've got another vinyl to share and appreciate with all of you guys out there. Now, if you saw the Metallica video I put out the other day about Kill 'Em All, you would have heard me say that I got two debut records at the same time coming through in the post from two very, very big metal bands. Now, obviously, one of those was Metallica and Kill 'Em All, which we spoke about. And the other is by a British band. I'm sure you've probably heard of them. They go by the name of Iron Maiden. And this is the self-titled debut record from Iron Maiden, released way back in 1980. And do you know what? It sounds incredible. All right. So, as I say, this was the debut album. It was released in 1980 back on EMI. This isn't a first pressing or anything like that. This is actually a 2014 reissue that was put out by Parlophone. So I found it a good price. It was on Discogs. Little segue, if you're wondering what Discogs is, go and check out my video. I've put out a guide to get Discogs as such, talking you through it. But yeah, go and check that one out as well. But so it's not an original pressing, it's 2014 reissue, but it sounds great. I had a scroll through, I was checking out reviews, checking out comments. Of course, I want to try and get the best sounding one that I can afford, that's an affordable one. I don't want to break my bank going and spending £200 on a first pressing, but I want something that sounds great. All right. So this is European pressing, so it doesn't include Sanctuary. That was put on the North American issue, or the North American version. So if you're a fan of Sanctuary, unfortunately you won't find on here. This is the original European track listing, okay? So looking there, we can see that it has, of course, Eddie, Iron Maiden's mascot. We all know Eddie. This artwork was by Derek Riggs, of course, who created Eddie. And there he is in all his glory with the classic red Iron Maiden logo right there. Eddie isn't up to too much on this one. We all know that on other albums and whatnot, Eddie gets up to all sorts. He's a staple of the live show. He comes out in a live show. And he's been their mascot from the beginning. All right, so here he's just stood in front of a wall, just looking evil. Nothing more to it than that. On the back, we've got a very old school, probably not the best picture of the band right there. It's a live picture. You can't really tell who's who or what's going on, but that is from back in the day. A couple of smaller stills from the bottom there. I'll track list him. I'll come on to all the normal very shortly. But there you go. Let's have a look inside, shall we? See what we've got. There's nothing much to it on this one. There's no lyric sheet or anything like that. It's very basic. Black inner sleeve there, and there we have it. Let's get disc one, or sorry, side one right there. We can see we have track listing. It is very basic. It's got Iron Maiden, quite an old school looking Iron Maiden right there on the logo, and then we can see our track listing going down for side one or side A. Flip it over, we've got the same, the other side there, side two or side B. Then we put it away, put it back nice and gently in this gorgeous looking sleeve. It is brand new, it's not a second hand record, so it is in incredibly good condition. There's no folds, there's no dents, no scuffs. The vinyl itself was perfect. There was no dust or anything on it, the same as Kill 'Em All. The seller did an excellent job of packaging, probably the best packaging I've actually received when getting a vinyl. So overall, it looks fantastic. I had, when I got these and I opened them, I sat Kill 'Em All next to Iron Maiden down in front of my record player, and they looked amazing side by side. Two pivotal, classic heavy metal records. I suddenly felt like a collector. I felt a good feeling seeing those two sat in front of me there. All right. So, Iron Maiden. This was a slightly different Iron Maiden lineup to what it is now. Let me tell you who we had. All right. So, vocals were Paul Di'Anno, who was with Maiden for the first two records. He was fired for substance abuse and whatnot. So he left Maiden, and obviously we all know who came in. The mighty Bruce Dickinson. And then we have Dave Murray on guitar, who of course is still with the band, an original from the beginning. And also Dennis Stratton, who only lasted one album. This is the only album that you'll find Dennis Stratton on. He also left the band. And then on bass, we have Steve Harris, who again, an original, still with the band, the man that created Iron Maiden. And then on drums, we have Clive Burr, who did the first three Maiden albums, up to Number of a Beast. And then, of course, Nico McBrain came in. But it's a 5-piece back then. We obviously know Maiden as a 6-piece these days with the 3 guitars, but this was a 5-piece. Funnily enough, Paul Di'Anno, Dennis Stratton and Clive Burr all went on to play for Praying Mantis at one time or another. So a little fun fact for you there. But yeah, we have Dave Murray and Steve Harris, who were original members. This was produced by Will Malone. Obviously, he does have his, you can just about see maybe, he does have his credit on there. An interesting story about Will Malone. He wasn't overly interested, so legend says, in this project. And he pretty much left Maiden to produce it themselves, which, you know, sound like a good thing, really, to get the sound that we know for today. So, track listing. Let me tell you what we've got here. So, side A, we have Prowler, Remember Tomorrow, Running 3, Phantom of the Opera. And on the second side, we have Transylvania, Strange World, Charlotte the Harlot, and Iron Maiden, the track Iron Maiden. It's kind of like Black Sabbath on the record Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. We have Iron Maiden on Iron Maiden by Iron Maiden. Maybe it's something about those early British metal albums, who knows. So it's a really great album. It's not my favourite Maiden album, but it's a strong contender. There was already elements of that Maiden sound that we know that has run through their career and that we know now. I'm gonna quickly go through these tracks, a couple of these tracks, and talk a little bit about the sound without reviewing. Remember, we're not going to be reviewing. I'm sure everybody has reviewed Iron Maiden by Iron Maiden over the years. I'm not going to be another one. I just want to talk about how it sounds to me. Same as we do with all our videos, okay? So, Prowler, you have that opening riff, and then you have that high sort of wah pedal guitar. It's not solo, but just that riff almost coming through, heavy on the wah, and then walking through the city, that lyric kicks in and we're off and running. We're into Iron Maiden's back catalogue. We're starting as we mean to go on with that track, okay? Remember Tomorrow, it changes it up a little bit. Prowler has quite that fast tempo to begin with, whereas Remember Tomorrow, we have that nice bass opening that sounds great. We'll come on to sound. And then we have that Diano. I'm going to say that he has, in some parts of this record, has quite a punky sounding voice. We know he's got the power and we know he hits those big notes, but there's quite a raw punkiness to his voice in certain tracks as well. Remember Tomorrow, not Remember Tomorrow, Prowler. He definitely doesn't have a punky voice in Remember Tomorrow. Prowler, Charlotte the Harlot, and even Iron Maiden, they're all quite punky sounding vocals in a way with his voice. But Remember Tomorrow is the opposite. We hear a real big, high, powerful note. You know, we know what Bruce Dickinson can do, but Paul Di'Anno did it before. And that's the first time we hear that vocal open up, and it sounds fantastic coming through the speakers. And it's the first time as well that we hear that classic Maiden change of tempo. It goes into that bounciness, that gallop, and it comes kind of from nowhere, and it completely shifts the feel of the song. And we go off on this usually gallopy pace, bouncy passage. We know other songs, Fear of the Dark, one that pops into my head. But yeah, we see it here with Remember Tomorrow. From that, we go into Running Free, which I think, well, I've just mentioned about punky sounding vocals. I think this is a punky-ish sounding song. There's elements of punk. I've seen interviews from Steve Harris where he absolutely defiantly says he didn't take anything from punk, but I kind of hear it a little bit here. I'm not advocating that Maiden were a punk band in any way, but I can hear little elements of it. We have that drum intro. It's not really a drum intro. It's Clive Burr on the floor toms and the toms, and it's coming in, and it doesn't really change drum wise off that. We get a lot of just on the toms, and that really sort of catchy chorus that you get in punk. And, you know, again, I'm not advocating, before everybody flames me in comments going, why are you saying Maiden are a punk band? I'm not saying Maiden were a punk band, but you can hear little elements of it, little elements. That quickly disappeared, you know, when we go and see Iron Maiden now in 2021, you don't hear anything that sounds punky at all, not even close. But you can hear little bits, I think, on this record. Definitely can. Phantom of the Opera. We go into probably what I think is the defining moment of this record. This is the highlight for me. Phantom of the Opera. We have that dual guitar opening. We have the gallopy bass line coming through. We have that vocal line that sits with the guitar. We have the vocal going along with that. We go into quite a almost progressive, a really kind of proggy passage as well in that song. And then following that sort of proggy passage, we have that lovely, you can really hear the guitar and the bass playing along together and then just sort of breaking off a little bit. But you get the bass and then the guitar going on the top of it. And it's just, I don't know, it's like seven minutes or so, this track. But it's just what kind of we know Maiden can do these days. They do a lot of long tracks. There's lots of changes of tempo. There's lots of faster passages, more melodic passages, riffy passages. And this was our first introduction to that style from Iron Maiden themselves, and I definitely feel that is the best track for me on this record is Phantom of the Opera. It ends up side A, so you're left thinking, wow, what are we going to get in side B if that's how they're ending side A? But it's just 7 minutes of a real musical journey, and very much the definitive Iron Maiden sound, I would say. Transylvania we go into, another gallopy track. It's an instrumental, but it gallops along there. It kind of almost blends into going into Strange World a little bit. Charlotte the Harlot is another, I've said before, a punkier sounding vocal from Di'Anno. It's another song that I like a lot. I don't think it's a song probably I've heard live before. I don't know if they really play it. I know they do Phantom of the Opera, and they definitely do this next track, Iron Maiden. Again, punky-ish sounding vocals, as I mentioned earlier, carries that on. We have the dueling guitar melodies, we have that driving bass through, and it's definitely a live staple still for the band. Usually towards the end or encore-esque, you'll hear this track. And that rounds up Iron Maiden. As I say, no Sanctuary. If you're looking for Sanctuary, this is European press, not the North American press. So the North American press featured Sanctuary, whereas the European didn't. Okay. So, as always, how does the record sound? You'll be glad to know it sounds fantastic. This isn't a record that has been taken from a digital format and stuck onto a vinyl. Far from. This very much sounds like it's analog, straight from the analog, which is a big thumbs up, 2 thumbs up you can see. Or maybe we shouldn't do thumbs up, we should do metal horns. 2 sets of metal horns up if it's come from the analogs, which it sounds to me like it has. It doesn't sound digital in any way. It is good volume. You know, you don't have to turn it up full on the volume to get the volume coming through. It is spacious on the instruments. There's not that combustion of the instruments. It's very clear separation of the instruments, with each dynamic being very, very fluid as well. Big sound stage. And that's how Maiden should sound. They're not a band where it's just riffs throughout like other metal bands might be. There's a lot of small technical passages. There's a lot going on in Maiden songs. We've talked about Phantom of the Opera. There's a good example. There's a lot going on in that 7 minutes, and I want to hear every bit of it. I want to hear every guitar part. I want to hear every bit of Steve Harris's galloping famous bass lines. I want to hear it all, and I can. The separation is really clear. It sounds fantastic. It's a good reissue. I spoke the other day about Saxon and Denim and Leather. I got incredibly passionate about solos screaming out of my speakers at me. And there are a couple of instances where the solos do just that. Phantom of the Opera and Charlotte the Harlot are the 2 songs where I felt those lead guitar solos coming and melting my face. It was like a blast suddenly through the speakers. It doesn't happen in every song, I didn't find. I had it at a reasonable volume, but Charlotte the Harlot and Phantom of the Opera were those 2 tracks where the solos really scream, just like they did in Denim and Leather. And I like that. I want the solos to scream out. You know, this is metal. Solos are a crucial part of metal, or the majority of metal, definitely. Especially these classic metal bands, new wave of British heavy metal bands, which Iron Maiden were a crucial part of. You know, I want those solos to come out. I want them to kind of overshadow what else is going on. They should be the forefront of what is happening at that song. You know, if there's a guitar solo going on, the chances are there's not going to be loads of stuff I want to pick out on the drums. Maybe the bass line might do something along with the solos, but on the whole, you know, we're not probably going to get vocals through a guitar solo. So I want that guitar solo to sit forward and do what it's meant to do and melt our faces off with metal godness. Yeah? So yeah, it does just that. The bass is punchy. Again, Steve Harris is an incredible bass player. He's got that galloping style that we all know and we all love. It's what we come to expect from Steve Harris in the bass lines and the passages for Iron Maiden. That is punchy. There's a couple of moments in it where his bass really comes throughout the mix. Maybe intentionally, just how it sounded to me. Maybe not intentionally, but it did come through. Not so much on the gallopy passages, but on other areas it did come through. Which really did. The lower end toms, so your floor tom, for example, were punching through in the mix, which sounded great. The end of Strange World, you get those little taps on the ride cymbal, which they were like that. It was like I'd set my ride cymbal up in my room next to me. I got my drumsticks out and I was tapping away. It sounded just like that. So overall, I can't fault this. And those reviews on Discogs did it justice. They weren't lying when they reviewed this one. And that's a good thing. It's why it's always worth just going and checking reviews, getting a feel for what the record sounds like, if it's good, if it's not so good. And glad to say that this one sounds great. I am really, really happy with it. Really over the moon with Iron Maiden's first record, their self-titled debut, Iron Maiden. Go and check it out. If you're a metal fan and you don't own this, get out the room. Get out the room, all right? This is classic material. You should own it. It's a 2014 reissue by Parlophone. It's definitely worth picking up. It's pretty affordable. If you can go out and find it, I would highly, highly recommend this one. So that is all for this one. Go and hit subscribe for me. Let's build this channel up. I've got loads more content, loads more vinyl videos coming up. Also carrying on my download memory series, so go and check that out. Reliving my time at the Download Festival here in the UK at Donington, also formerly known as Monsters of Rock for you old school fans out there. But go and hit subscribe, go and smash that like button like your life depended on it, and click that bell for all the notifications for when my content goes live. I'll be back soon with more vinyls to share with you guys. We're going to appreciate a few more of them. But until then, buy vinyl, listen to vinyl, and listen to Iron Maiden.